Kusampo and welcome to Season 3 of Queer Talks. I am your host, Namgay Zam. Queer Talks is brought to you by the Canada Embassy in Bhutan. Sitting with me here today to talk about a lot of wonderful things is Reychung, who I have known personally for a very long time, was involved in the production of the previous Queer Talks as well, and then now you're sitting here in front of me. But you are the first person who identifies as queer, right? To have lived outside of Bhutan and then now to live inside Bhutan. And I'm sure you've compared the two experiences. Could you share with us what it was like to be queer abroad and then to be queer here in Bhutan?
Well, I personally feel like being queer here is more in line with my culture, I would say. It's more of a cultural experience, I would say, because abroad, there's not really a culture that I used. My culture wasn't as significant in the queer community, I would say. I mean, yes, I was Asian. I was a gay Asian, I guess. Yeah, a Gaysian, that's the term they used. And I felt like, I couldn't show my culture that I do right now. Like me wearing this gold, me having this rich culture from Bhutan, I couldn't really show that because that wasn't a part of there, right? So I was my authentic self there, But here I feel like I am, in addition to being queer, I feel like I also do hold my culture with me. So I feel that's the difference. And I feel like, people here aren't as open as they are abroad, right? There's a lot of situations where people are still closeted, It's hard. That I understand because our society is still a bit scared about coming out. But I understand that, But back there, people do exist, closeted people do exist, yes, but it's less common, and I feel like it's easier to come out there. And I did also come out in Canada, so I wasn't confined to the same cultural aspects as I was. I feel like I wouldn't have come out if I was here. So maybe that's the difference I feel, I feel like every country I've went to, like the gay culture, the queer culture has been very different from country to country depending on how it is and how it is tied with their culture. So I feel that here it's a bit more slower, but also very fast behind the scenes.
Fast behind the scenes, but slow in the front.
Yeah.
That must be very complicated then.
Yes.
And how do you deal with that complexity?
I try to also go with the flow, go with them, try to understand that people here aren't as comfortable with their sexuality as I am. Because studying abroad helped me come in terms with my sexuality. And it's easier for me to just be myself. Here people are very concerned about what other people think. I am too, yes, but not as much, I don't care as much. But here, the societal standards are very high, I would say. And people do tend to care a lot more. So I do take that into consideration, and I feel like people should take it slow, and that's fine. And I do take it slow here too.
So when you say, when I came out, right? People now, I'm sure everybody who's watching says, you mean you've come out as gay or something, but your identity is panromantic. Yeah. And I hadn't heard of that. I've heard of pansexual, but I hadn't heard of panromantic until you said, I identify more as panromantic. What does that mean?
Pansexual and panromantic are kind of similar in the terms that you like the person based on what they are as a person, with their essence of their personality, right? But panromantic means I like people based on their personalities more than the sex, right? It's more than the sex. And for pansexual people, it's more of like a difference of who you're romantically attracted to. I'm panromantic because I'm attracted to everybody. It doesn't matter. But pansexual people, they're sexually attracted to everyone. And I identify as a bit on the asexual spectrum because I feel like I'm a bit demisexual in that term because I don't really identifying as pansexual anymore. I feel like I used to, but right now I feel like panromantic describes me a lot more because I realized that I don't discriminate based on anything else. And
it's nice to be an indiscriminate person. Because we have these biases, inbuilt biases. Oh, I like a certain type of person, so I'm only going to be, because your mind knows that you're only attracted to a certain kind of person, So I was like, when you mentioned that to me, and I was like, I know only two celebrities, right, who have come out as being pansexual: Miley Cyrus and Willow Smith, right? The two of them. But what was your journey like to discovering this? Because this is one of the lesser known identities, right? So how did you journey towards this?
Well, I think it's my experience being abroad, I think, like just having explored so much of myself, like sexually, romantically. I feel like having this experience, you know, of having this freedom of being able to experience such things, right? I feel like because of this opportunity that I had to study and like the opportunities I took there to discover myself, I feel like that's how I came to this conclusion, you know. But it took me a while. Like I had to journey through my sexuality a bit, you know. I was like straight at one point, I was bi, I was gay, and like now I'm pan, you know. This might change, gender is fluid, you know. It's not people. I feel like people evolve and sexualities evolve too. I don't think anyone stays the same. I might turn into something different at the end of the day, but it doesn't matter. You are yourself. I feel like if you're happy with that.
Do you have these kinds of conversations with your family and your parents?
Well, I think after I came out to them via a phone call.
When you were in Canada?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it was like in the depths of my depression era. You know, it was like, I feel like getting this load off my chest was a needed thing. So I did. And I feel like after that, we did really talk about it, you know? And I feel like it's a bit awkward to talk about it personally because they are still
coming to terms.
I wouldn't say coming to terms. They're just awkward. Like they're just generally awkward about it, and I don't mind that. You know, I feel like it's very hard to talk about something that you're not comfortable with.
Right.
Not comfortable with, but I feel like something that you're not used to talking about, right?
Right.
So I feel like it's a huge step for them. That's why I do not pressure them to talk about it. I do tell them about like, hey, you know, I am this, I am that. I'm going for this project here, for that project there, with Queer Voices, you know. So I feel like they don't stop me. They've never said anything homophobic, you know. They've always tried to accept me, and I do appreciate them for that. But we never have the conversation. I feel like it's never been like, oh yeah, you know, they don't want to talk about it. But like, I don't want to talk about it either because it's awkward. But I think, you know, as long as it's not causing problems, I am fine with not having this conversation because they understand. We did have that conversation at the start. So.
Right. That conversation happened.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that I think that's more important, yeah. But I think it's such a Bhutanese thing, no, Reychung? Yeah. You're talking about this cultural existence of queer people in Bhutan, but then there's this Bhutanese existence of where we don't talk about things. No. But it isn't like we are ignoring it. We've accepted it and that's it. Yeah. Like we don't want to get into the details of it, no, I think. But did your parents ever express concern over your safety?
Yes. A funny incident, actually. I had a stash of condoms that I never used. Well, whenever I went to a program,
you would get it, right?
Yeah.
I have so many as well.
So many. So it was in my bag, and you know they were concerned that they thought that I was having sex everywhere and every day, and I'm like, no, I got this because. You know, they gave a bulk to me, so I was like, you know, I don't want to throw this in the trash. So I was like, I'll take it. You know, they saw the stash and they were like so scared, and they pulled me aside and they were like, son, are you okay? You know, you have to be safe. And I know you are being safe with the condoms you have, but you know, we're worried. You know, it's not good to have a voracious sex life. And I'm like, ma'am, it's not like this. You know, I just have it because, you know, they gave it to me. So they do pull me aside for like concerns.
Right.
But other than that, they know I'm smart like that. But I guess since I am their child, they also do express concern.
Of course, right. I think I would now, I've become a parent, right? Like I'm just thinking, oh, if I were to have this, if my child ever was in a situation where he identifies as something different from what he was assigned at birth, I think my main concern is safety, you know, of my child. Like I want to protect my child from bullying, from being discriminated against. And I think I've begun to empathize so much more with the attitudes of parents now as to, you know, how they don't embrace it immediately. I mean, like you were saying, it's different when you're abroad because, I mean, it's so much more visible. You have equal rights. There are activists. There are organizations that will fight for you. But then, I mean, in the context of Bhutan, like you'll have your two parents or your two friends with you, you know? Isn't that the truth?
Yes.
Right? But your mental health, Reychung, you said, you know, you were going through so much bout of depression, so you wanted to unburden yourself with this whole thing about coming out to your parents. How is your mental health now? How do you cope?
I think I am out of my depression era. It's been nice coming back to Bhutan. I think that was the change I needed. I was in Canada alone. I was studying there. I don't think that was good for my mental health personally. Living alone. Plus, COVID hit at that time.
Right.
I think I was fine in my first year university because COVID wasn't a thing there, and I was like going to classes, having fun. But once COVID hit, I realized that we're stuck in this house for a while now. So I think that kind of helped increase my depression. And my parents were really understanding about it, and I'm really sorry that they had to go through that because of me, because I'm a really bad communicator on this sort of things. Maybe it's because I was brought up too, That's, I think, one thing we forget to talk about is how Bhutanese people don't talk about their feelings.
Yes.
I also had that trouble, I couldn't talk to them because I felt like I was burdening them. But then I was also worrying them by not talking to them, right? Because they're worried, and I used to go like months without communication because I didn't want them to worry. But then I didn't realize the inadvertent effect that I was also worrying them in the process by trying not to, right? So they went through a lot because of me, and I'm really thankful that they're still here. And I think that's the reason, even though they're really harsh sometimes, and I know it's for my own good. So whenever they scold me, I never take it to heart. I mean, I do take the advice to heart, but I don't take the harsh words to heart.
Right,
sometimes in the fit of anger, you do say some mean stuff. But it's warranted that I did something wrong, so I must be reprimanded for it, right? I understand that. I think now as an adult, I do understand that these are words of kindness veiled with harshness, but. I think them just being here to support me, them saying, we'll support you through this, even though we've spent so much, they're still willing to help me. And I think that helped me a lot with my depression. Now I'm out of it, right? Because they've been so supportive, They don't talk about feelings, but...
The actions.
Yeah.
Right? I think we always compare with how Western societies are, or other societies where it's talk with each other, right? But I think in most, like not just Bhutanese communities, Asian communities, you do it, no? You'd rather do it than say it, I think. But I'm glad that you're in this space, Reychung, because you had these really dark posts on Instagram. And remember, I was reaching out and I was like, are you okay? But I'm glad you're okay. And how are you enjoying college life here? I mean, let's not say enjoy. What's college life here for you?
I am enjoying it personally. It's very different from what I was doing back then. I was doing science, right? But now I'm somewhat of an art person. I'm also taking photography. It's pretty fun. Now that I've discovered an artistic side of me.
Yes.
Because back then I never thought that I would be good at it. Right? I feel like I've always been riddled with these kind of like feelings where I thought I wouldn't be good enough. But once I try it out and once I actually do like dive into it, I realized that I'm not bad at it. And that's why I feel like I enjoy college right now. It's not that hard, personally. And I feel like it's easier than what it was. And I think that helps me. Because back then it was very stressful. And I think that didn't help my mental health. But it's very chill, easygoing. There's a lot of assignments, but I feel like now that my mental health is, good and all, I feel like I'm not procrastinating as much. I am, but it's not bad. And I'm turning in my assignments on time. It's fun, I'm making new friends, making new memories, and having fun with college.
So you were saying, I mean, of course, you've overcome a hurdle, right? Your mental health in the past. But who do you go to? Where do you go to for this, to get this confidence to move forward?
Back then, I would say I was alone most of the time, and I used to trudge through it alone. And that was very unhealthy. I feel like everyone should have someone to reach out to. And even if you don't have someone to reach out to, I feel like you should always try to at least try to reach out to someone, even though you don't have anyone, like maybe some anonymous helpline or something, right? So back then, I thought that I could do it alone. Obviously, I don't think you can. It's very hard to. But my parents helped me a lot. I have a bunch of friends that helped me through it, and I also went through that period of no contact with them. But they still understood that I was struggling, so they didn't want to talk to me and make me feel more stressed about it. They just gave me some space and time, and then when I was ready to talk to them, they were accepting of me. So I feel like my friends helped me cope a lot. But one healthy way I did cope was cleaning somehow.
Cleaning?
Yeah, because when I was down in the dumps, my room was also a mess. But once I felt like I needed to change, I started cleaning, and somehow it helps.
Organizing things, I
Yeah.
think, right? In a way, it's like organizing your mind. I think for me too, like when I have these bouts of anxiety, we procrastinate a lot when you do that,
Yeah.
right? So I think I always try and clean the room or put things like I see it, it's visible, this tidiness and orderliness, and I think that's what I want. One thing now, Reychung, do you think anything should change with how the queer community is in Bhutan for them to change, like for you guys, or do you think the pace of things and how things are going right now is okay, or do you think something else needs to be done?
That's a hard question. I personally feel like it's fine for a country that's pretty conservative, I would say, because it is an Asian country at the end of the day.
Yes.
And people are still, learning about this. I feel like it's fine for now, personally. I feel like times will change with the Gen Zs.
Right.
I feel like they will change. I feel like I'm saying this as like a thing, but I feel like that's what people back then thought. But no, I genuinely feel like Gen Z, with the power of the internet, with their phones,
right.
I feel
Everything is democratized.
Yes.
So much more exposure and access, right?
Yeah.
So we can be optimistic.
I hope so.
Yeah, and I hope you always take care of your mental health, and you always, you can ride that wave whenever it comes. And thank you so much for speaking to me, Reychung, and thank you for being on Queer Talks. We have something for you, as we do for all our guests on the show. Here you go.
Thank you so much. For Voices of Bhutan, thank you for this tote bag. I really wanted this from last year.
You finally
They ran
have it.
out, so yeah.